It's the first day of the new financial year. We're releasing this episode on the 1st of July, 2026. So I hope that you're feeling fired up and ready to go for 2026, 2027. And it's the perfect time to be looking at your numbers and looking at the data. And maybe as you're looking at those numbers, you've noticed that the results are a bit too similar to the previous year, or maybe they're up a little, but not up by as much as you think they should be when you consider how hard you've been working over the past 12 months, the deals that you've chased, the clients that you've served. When you think about all the hours that you've put in, the results don't reflect that effort. It feels like you've done the work, but the rewards aren't there. If you've been stuck at roughly the same revenue for the past couple of years, or maybe it's not growing as much as you think it should, and you can't quite figure out why, today's episode is for you because in my experience, the ceiling isn't where most commercial real estate principals think it is. This is episode 276 of Commercial Real Estate Leadership. My name's Darren Krakowiak. I'm your host, and I help commercial real estate principals to build an agency that can run without them so they have the choice to work on or off the tools. And you know, some commercial real estate principals want to work on the tools and they actually want to spend more time working on the tools because that is the most direct pathway to increasing revenue in their business. If that's you, or you think that might be you, there might be something in today's episode for you. Because when a commercial real estate principal tells me that their revenue has plateaued, one of the first things that I ask them is, well, what do you think is causing that? And the answers that I usually get back is some combination of market conditions, something to do with how the team's performing. There might be issues just in the pipeline in terms of converting through stages, or just the quality of leads or the quantity of leads that are coming in, or perhaps there's something going on in the competitive landscape. And look, all of those things might be real factors that are contributing to the issue. But in my experience, they're not usually the primary cause of the ceiling that exists in the business. The primary cause is almost always that the principal has become a hard limit on what the business can produce, because the business has been built over time in a way where the principal's personal output is the main engine of revenue. They're the one who is doing the deals. They're the one with the relationships. And there's a ceiling on how much any one person can produce, especially when they're also running a business, no matter how capable they are or how hard they work. Now, if you heard episode 271 about 5 weeks ago, you'll recognize the idea. We talked about the ceiling formula, and today I want to go deeper into one specific part of that. Not how many hours you're working, but how those hours are being spent working in or on the business. Because here's the truth. Most commercial real estate principals don't just have one job. They've got two jobs. The first job is being on the tools. It's finding new business, prospecting, building relationships, winning listings, doing deals. This is the work that you can do best in your business. There's probably no one who can do it better than you. It draws on your reputation, on your experience, on your natural strengths, your relationships in the market. It's why you're the principal. But then there's the second job, and that's running the business, leading the team, supporting your people, handling operations, the admin, the systems, the day-to-day decisions that keep the trains running. This work matters. It's a full-time position in and of itself, but it's a fundamentally different job from the first one. Now, a lot of commercial real estate principals who are facing a revenue plateau, the split that they're seeing between those two jobs is somewhere between 50-50. So they're spending half of their time on the tools and half of their time running the business. And here's the thing about that split. Only one of those two jobs directly produces revenue. Being on the tools directly produces revenue for the business and also income for you. Running the business protects and maintains what already exists. And of course, you can spend your time also hiring people, developing people on mergers and acquisitions. But the day-to-day operations of the business in and of itself don't really create new business. And what that means is if you're spending around half of your week running the business, you're only spending half of your time doing things which actually moves the numbers. So I want to ask you a question. If you love doing deals and you don't want to spend less time on the tools, does running the business have to be your job? Now, the honest answer in most cases is actually no, because the business doesn't care who runs it. The business only cares that it gets run, that the team is supported, that the operations function, that the day-to-day gets handled consistently and well. That work can be done by you, but it can equally be done by a general manager, an office manager, a department head. Some of it can even get done by a high-powered and capable executive assistant. It just needs to be done by someone who you've developed into that role and someone who's been specifically brought in to do it. None of that work actually requires you specifically, not in the way that finding new business does, because it's much harder to replicate your relationships, your market reputation, and your ability to win a deal. Plenty of capable people can run the day-to-day operations of your business if you give them the opportunity and the structure to do it. Now, this is the insight that tends to shift things for some commercial real estate principals who are attracted to this type of business. They've been treating running the business as something that only they can do because they are the commercial real estate principal. And often early on, there's no one else there to do it as well, right? They have to be the one who's there to run the business. They've built it and they ran it because there was no alternative. But the business has grown since then, and the assumption hasn't been revisited. Running the business is still the principal's responsibility by default, not by necessity. So let's challenge that. Handing off the running of the business doesn't have to mean hiring a general manager tomorrow. For some commercial real estate agencies, a general manager is the right move. Someone who's senior enough to take full ownership of the operations, managing the team and the day-to-day, freeing the principal almost entirely for working on the tools. For others, it's more gradual. An office manager who takes on the administrative and operational load, the systems, the scheduling, the things that keep the business running and don't require the principal's judgment. Department heads who take ownership of their part of the business, like property management or sales and leasing. So decisions in those departments don't need to make their way back to the principal. It might be a senior team member who takes on one slice of the operational load at a time, with the principal gradually stepping back as confidence builds. The form that it takes matters less than this point. Every piece of running the business work that moves off the principal's plate is time that becomes available for working on the tools. And the tools, being on them, finding new business, is the place where many principals like to spend their time because that is what directly grows revenue. A principal who moves from, let's say, 50% of their time on the tools to 70 or even 80% by building structure around running the business isn't working more. They're working differently. And the revenue ceiling that's been stuck for maybe 2 or 3 years can start to move when that principal has more time to spend on the tools. Not because they're working harder, but because they're spending their time on the thing that they actually enjoy the most and that has the fastest and most direct contribution to growing revenue and also growing their income. Here's the thing I want to leave you with. If your revenue has been flat for a couple of years, the level of effort you're putting in is probably not the problem. You're working. The question is which job that work has been going to. And if the business is going to grow, it's going to have to grow beyond you. Not instead of you, still finding the business, still doing the deals you love, but beyond you running the business single-handedly. That's a different type of project from working harder, but it's one that does definitely move that ceiling higher. If you want to have a think through what this might look like in your specific business, what could come off your desk and what structure would actually support that, find me on LinkedIn, Darren Krakowiak, send me a message, tell me a bit about where things are in your business, and I will get back to you personally. That is our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you soon.